Marcey Rader is here today to teach us how to stay focused and make the most out of our day by being productive. This episode is perfect for anyone on your team. Don't miss the great tips that Marcey delivers this week on the Fitness Business Podcast. One of the best things about meeting the FBP family, and I say one of the best things, is that everybody loves to tell me about their favorite show or their favorite guest. Well, I would actually love it that until we meet again, if you could post some of your faves on your social media page and tag us, Fitness Business Podcast. Welcome to another educational episode here at the Fitness Business Podcast, where we try to make your job easier by inviting some of the smartest educators in the fit biz onto the show to share their wise knowledge and industry secrets. I'm your host, Dory Nugent, and today our guest, Marcey Rader, is going to do just that. Share her secrets on how to declutter your life. Marcey is a productivity expert and not once, but a 3-time best-selling author. Marcey is also the founder of Rader Co, a company that helps teams to be the best they can be. We will hear from Marcey in less than 2 minutes. First, a huge thank you to Tech Summit for supporting our show.
Okay, Aussies and Kiwis, now is the time to secure your seat to the Premier Technology Summit with just 150 others. Tickets are strictly limited, so secure yours today and avoid disappointment. Go to fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au. Your summit registration includes experts sharing the latest technology information to help make your business easier. You get access to the Resource Hub, which has 17 hours of on-demand webinars. There is a connections event. There is the gala dinner where we will be giving out the awards. There is the Fitness Business Podcast meetup. There's a boutique trade show, amazing 5-star food in all of our catered breaks, show bag of goodies, limited edition t-shirt, lucky door prizes, and so much more. You don't want to miss this. So head to fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au to register and use the code FBP22 to save $100. That's fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au.
Thank you, Tech Summit, for your support.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are your top 3 tips to power up our productivity?
Tip number 1, turn off your notifications. The horror. No, turn off your notifications. They are not there to make you more productive. They're there to make you use that program more. 2 would be to batch your tasks. And 3 would be to have a screen-free lunch more days than not.
Just in. Coming the first week of 2022, we kick off the new year with super guest Dre Baldwin. Dre specializes in helping entrepreneurs and athletes dominate from the inside out. If you want to, 1, get the most out of your ability, 2, be recognized for your performance, and 3, feel better about yourself, then this will be one of the top episodes of 2022. Dre Baldwin, the owner of Work on Your Game, will get you pumped up and ready to change your mental game. After this week's full interview, I'll introduce you to Dre Baldwin, and you'll hear why you need to come back to hear his interview.
OneFitStop is modern fitness studio software built for the growing multi-location studio, providing scheduling, client management, programming, payment collection tools, and more that will set your business up to grow. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes.
Let's transition into this week's interview with Marcey Rader. Today's fitness industry expert is Marcey Rader. Marcey is the founder of Rader Co, which is a health-powered productivity and training company. Marcey, thank you so much for coming on to the Fitness Business Podcast.
It is my pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about your topic. I think a lot of our listeners out there probably suffer from productivity issues and balancing their time. And you're going to talk to us for the next 20 minutes on how to become more efficient with all of that.
Yes. Fitness business owners, they are experts in many things and need to be experts in many things. And this is one of those areas where I have experienced the overwhelm and burnout when I talk to owners.
Marcey, before we get started in our interview, you personally have a great understanding on the challenges that fitness owners and managers face in regards to getting things done. So why don't you tell us a little bit?
Well, my earliest background was in exercise science and wellness. And that's what my undergrad and master's is in. And I managed fitness centers for the military and for the Army Research Lab and for different government centers. But I spent time in clinical research for 14 years. And then I started this company 8 years ago. And this is where I really felt the empathy and need of fitness business owners because I was growing my own business. And it's easy to think about, like, here's what I'm an expert in, nutrition, health, fitness, wellness. But now I also have to be an expert in marketing and social media and, prospecting and outsourcing and all of these other things, just the business aspect of it. And, a lot of times business owners get lost in, well, I don't even like these things. And now I'm doing these things and now I'm not with the clients anymore. And so, looking at where do I really want to be spending my time and, taking away as many bottlenecks as possible and streamlining those processes so that you can spend more time doing what you love.
Yeah, I like the term bottlenecks, and that paints a very clear picture for me. I like that term a lot.
Well, then I want to stick here for a second because for your listeners that have staff, and I'm sure most of them do, use that language and make it common in your vernacular. So for us, for my team, we have a weekly stand-up and we have questions that everybody needs to complete. And the very first question is, are there any bottlenecks? And we will call each other out, Marcey, you're the bottleneck in this task, or I was the bottleneck this week, or Lisa's a bottleneck when it comes to, getting the contract through. And when you use that language commonly, then people aren't as afraid to tell you, especially if you're the boss is the one that's the bottleneck, because we celebrate it. We're actually like, high five, you found a bottleneck. Because if we can find a bottleneck, then we can fix it. But if nobody's saying that something is a bottleneck, then it just stays that way. So make it fun. And you can even, make a game of it. I actually, give a bonus for the person who finds the most bottlenecks for the quarter, something like that. But it's not a dirty word. You can't fix it unless you recognize that it's broken.
I like that a lot. I like that. I would be one that would want to know if I was the bottleneck.
Yes. And call yourself out on it too. Yeah. And let people know, like, hey, you need to call me out. Let me know I'm the bottleneck.
All right. So one of the challenges that many owners and staff say they have is time management. Do you feel that is a system problem or a behavioral problem?
I think it is both. It is never just the system or the tool. It's also the behavior, because you can have the best CRM, you can have the best project management system, but if you don't practice the discipline to use them or to learn them, it's not going to matter. So to me, it is always both.
So I have a question for you, the behavioral part of it. I mean, even if you're 50 years old, you've been doing it the same way over and over, can it be fixed?
Yes. Yes. You can absolutely. Well, think about it, Dory. If somebody who's 50 years old who doesn't exercise comes to you and says, I want to start exercising, do you say, no, because your habit is that you never exercise, and so you're just never going to, right? You wouldn't say that to that client. So yes, you can change your behavior. And one thing that I see commonly is that people will implement systems or tools, but they don't take the time to actually do the training to learn how to do it properly. So then it's not fun for them, or it's not easy for them to do it. Or they're spending a lot of time setting something up when they don't need to. For example, I use the project management system ClickUp. I love systems and I love tools, but I hired somebody to set that up for me. So then once it was set up, they could just train me on how to use it, and I could just start. So sometimes it's just knowing when to outsource. If it's something that you're going to need to learn once, then hire somebody to do it, because it's probably not worth your time to learn how to do it just once.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I just had a guest on a few weeks ago. His topic was about virtual assistants, and he reiterated the same exact thing you just said. He's like, he was obviously pro hiring virtual assistants. And he's like, assign them the tasks that slow you down, that you don't like to do, that you procrastinate on. So I like the fact that you reiterated the same exact message that he had.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Big fan.
All right. So when I've read about you, Marcey, and seen some of your work online, you talk about time and tech boundaries. Could you explain to our listeners out there, what do you mean by time and tech boundaries?
Yes. So boundaries, think of boundaries or guardrails as something that keeps you safe. So when we are driving around a mountain, we like to have guardrails, right? It makes us feel better driving around that mountain. They are not barriers. So when you have a structure around your social media, around your ability to be contacted or communicated with by your clients, having guardrails put in place, they are not barriers. They're there to allow you to take the downtime to be able to focus when it's more appropriate. As an example, I like the app Scheduled. A lot of people will text, we text whenever we think about it. And there is an app called Schedule where you can write the text and schedule it to send at a different time. That way it's not bothering the person who's getting it. You don't have to, to worry about them texting you back on a Saturday night. If you think of something for your client on Saturday night at 9:00, you can go ahead and schedule it to send. That's a nice guardrail or boundary. Even with social media, you can think, like, I'm LinkedIn only. I don't even have a Facebook account. I don't have a Twitter account. I don't have an Instagram account. A lot of gyms, like, that is a really big part of their business, whereas LinkedIn wouldn't be. For me, it is. But I still have boundaries around that. And if your business is promoting healthy behaviors, it wouldn't seem unusual for you to not be on the device, because just, sitting in front of a screen isn't necessarily healthy behavior. And you could even go so far, and this is where the Freak Factor book comes into play, that he would say, that David would say, to emphasize that what other people would see as a weakness, oh, you're not on social media very much. You could emphasize that and say, that's because we're in the gym, or that's because we're outside, and we're not spending time in front of the device. So thinking about, what kind of guardrails you want to have in place with your communication and your social media teaches people how you respond. If you are reactive and you immediately text back or respond back to a post, people will expect that. If you just respond in a timely manner, whatever that means to you, then people will expect that too.
Yeah, I am the glued to my phone person that answers people very quickly, which I think people appreciate, but does come back and bite me sometimes, because if I don't answer them right away, then they're kind of like, hey, where are you? Why didn't you answer me right away? So,
right. Yeah, Dory, because you've trained them that way.
Yeah.
And because emails, I get back with you, within 24 hours. With text, it's usually, within a couple of hours. And my job is different than other people's jobs. So that could be, different for different people and different roles. But I have never in 10 years had anybody tell me I did not respond quickly enough or follow up and say, did you get my message? And it's because they're not used to the reactivity. It's typically only when you are reactive that people, if you don't react right away, that people say, did you get my message?
And the other fault I've created with this is my expectation that when I text somebody, I'm so anxious about it. I'm like, why didn't they answer me? Why aren't they answering me? I answer people right away. Why aren't they answering me? And then I find myself getting all worked up, a little agitated because they're not answering me right away. Not even totally being oblivious to maybe that they go by different rules than I go by. Tell us a little bit, like, what do you see as a challenge for business owners when it comes to these boundaries?
I think it's the training of clients and vendors. And some people don't like that word training. It sounds like we're manipulating people, but that is what you're doing. And you actually gave a perfect example of yourself with training people. And so it may be that you need to retrain and send out a communication, sending out a communication saying, that this is going to be, these are the expectations. This is when you can expect to hear from us. If you text us, we'll get back to you within 4 hours or whatever that is. It's better as long as people know, then it's the unknowing, it's the unknown that people get anxious about. And for Rader Co, we actually have an email manifesto on our site, and it explains very clearly what our communication protocol is. And so, it really comes down to just, letting people know, and then that anxiety is lessened.
Yeah, it's interesting. I called somebody the other day and I got their voicemail. I was so impressed by their voicemail. It gave the day. So they change it every single day. And it just gave a really quick overview of that person's day, of what they were doing. And then, at the end, it basically was saying, so I might not be able to respond to you until after 5 p.m., but I will respond to you. But it was like, I hung up and I was like, okay, I get it. I'm not sitting there being anxious, waiting for them to call me back, because I'm like, okay, she's in meetings from, 1 to 4 o'clock and then until she gets home. But I was really impressed with that. I thought that was like, I just saw organization all over that.
Yeah, that actually is I don't do that because I don't really get calls that often, but that is when somebody calls me, it's usually like, wow, I need to answer this because nobody ever calls me anymore. People just text or email, but I like that.
Yeah.
For somebody who they're setting the expectations. It's very clear. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I thought, setting the expectations, it's a very good way of putting it. So speaking of setting expectations, so why do you think that's so important?
It goes back to what you said a few minutes ago, Dory, that when you text somebody, you start to feel anxious. When are they going to get back to me? And so it's just so much of it comes down to just what's known and what's unknown. And it makes us feel better when we know what's going to happen. If you have a doctor's appointment, knowing what's going to happen, if they send you an email or they send you to a link on the website that says, this is what's going to happen, at your doctor's appointment, you feel better going into it, so it just releases that anxiety and not knowing. And also, if you're with a client, if you were their client and you were training them, you would not expect them or want them to be on the phone answering texts or emails while they're training you. So, because that would be disrespectful. So we need to expect that they're going to be respectful, with their other people. And so it really comes down to just, setting the expectations of respect and using that terminology when they are retraining.
So speaking of terminology, you use 3 words, you put them together: batch, theme, and focus.
Mm-hmm.
Run through each one of these and explain to us what you mean by batch, theme, and focus.
So if there's anybody listening that at the end of their day feels like they worked all day and they didn't get anything done. Yeah. Dory's raising her hand, everyone. Typically that is because there's been a lot of switch tasking where we go back and forth between multiple tasks, and our brains do not like that. Our brains like to finish something and move on, finish something and move on. If we are going back and forth, we don't feel that same sense of completion. It's also very tiring for our brains, and that actually leads to decision fatigue, which also leads to decreased willpower and discipline. So that's something good for you to know for your clients. So batching is just like you wouldn't, get out all the ingredients and make one cookie, you'd make a whole batch. Batching your tasks as much as you can. So whether that is, calling prospects, scheduling client appointments, doing your marketing, ordering your supplies, doing those all at once where your brain is fully focused on just that task. So that's the batching part of it. The theme is to have theme days. So for me, I have on Tuesdays when I, call prospects, on Wednesdays when I work on marketing, on Fridays when I have appreciation. So, and I send thank you cards to people. And the reason why the themes can work really well is because, one, you're able to, exactly where to batch those tasks on what days, but also if you make themes for things that you often want to do but don't do, like continuing education and professional development. We want to do it, it's important, but unless it's a theme, you might forget to do it or just keep putting it off. It's important to me to send thank you cards, like real live, real physical, in the mail thank you cards. If it wasn't a theme on Fridays, which is my AAA day, admin, accounting, and appreciation, I probably wouldn't do it. So thinking about what can I theme? And then also making sure that you have dedicated focus time and at least 2 hours in a row a week where you are not interrupted. You don't have, none of your staff are coming in to interrupt you. And you're just able to think about strategy and content and business planning, which is not something that you can do in 15, 20-minute chunks in between clients.
Marcey, I'm sitting here thinking, I need to take some of her own advice because I pride myself on being a multitasker, but I think sometimes I'm too spread out on the multitasking. And I'm like, oh, look at all this. I can shift gears, but I'm shifting so much. You're right. I sometimes feel like brain fatigue.
Well, and if the multitasking is a myth that we do it well, we think that we do it well, but we don't. And what studies have shown is that it takes us about 15 to 25 minutes to get truly focused on a task. And when we go back and forth between multiple tasks through the same cognitive channel, then it's tiring for our brains and we're actually slower at doing that task. So the types of tasks that would be through the same cognitive channel would be like, going back and forth between emails and, working on your marketing plan. And then let me look at this email and then, let me pay this bill. If you're all focused on one thing, then, that is less tiring for your brain. But multitasking, there's different types of multitasking. There's background tasking, which is like listening to music while you work out. That's good. That actually can help you work out harder. But if you're listening to music or listening to a podcast, this one, if you're listening to this podcast and cooking, you're good. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're reading a recipe, then all of a sudden you're not able to listen to that podcast anymore in the same way. It actually gets kicked to a different part of your brain where it's not absorbed anymore.
I'd like to just kind of rewind a little bit, going back to batch, theme, and focus. And if you could just one more time run through each one and maybe just give your top tip for implementing each one of these.
Okay. So batch is putting like tasks together, like say, calling all your prospects or, working on your marketing. Theme is when you put those themes into different days, like, I coach or I train on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I work on my marketing on Thursdays. I call prospects on Tuesdays. And, it doesn't mean that, like, say maybe Mondays are your days to upload content on your website or something like that. It doesn't mean that if you have a broken link on your site on a Wednesday that you wait until Monday. It just means that most of your tasks are batched to that theme day. And then the focus is to ensure that you have uninterrupted time, whether it's a morning or an afternoon or a full day, every single week. And I am a big, big fan of design days. And that is where you take like 2 days a quarter, 2 or 3 days a quarter, or at least one full day to plan out your next quarter, and it be completely away from your business where you can actually really think and be strategic.
So if you're somebody that is not doing this, right, and they're scattered and they're all over the place, what is your best advice for somebody to hone in on those 3 words and get started? Is it writing it down? Is it getting a planner? Is there an app? What's your best advice?
If we're starting with one place, it would be the batching of the tasks. And think of whatever the easiest thing is that comes to mind, like marketing. Or prospect calls, or ordering supplies, whatever that is. Think of the one thing that is the easiest, like the tasks that are like, I should just order all my supplies at once instead of, ordering here and there throughout the week, and start there.
Thank you so much. I love your advice, and I'm sure our listeners love your advice as well. It was so simple, but yet, why is it so hard to do? You broke everything down so easy to understand and easy to relate to. You had such great analogies.
Well, thank you. And I want you to know that it's not your fault. These systems and tools are designed to suck you in, and it's not your fault. And just like the person that comes to the gym that's never exercised before or has fallen into bad habits, that that you can change their life in that way, you can also change your life in this way too.
Thank you, Marcey, for joining us today. It's such a treat to have you on the show. To our FBP family, if you would like to contact Marcey, all of her contact details are on the show notes, which can be seen at thefitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Or when you subscribe to the best show notes in the podcast world, they are emailed directly to you. Subscribe to the show notes also at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Up next, I will introduce you to 4-time TED Talk speaker and author of 9 books, Dre Baldwin.
G'day, it's JT here, and I was talking to Blair McCaney, the CEO of one of our sponsors, MX Metrics, the other day, and I gave him a hard time about his company's tagline, defeating mediocrity. By definition, that means he's excluding the majority of the market, but Blair just wouldn't budge. He only wants to work with operators who want to punch mediocrity in the face, really smash it. So I've talked to a few of his customers, like Joe Shirelli from Gainesville Health and Fitness, and yeah, it's for real. While Joe is a nice guy, he isn't satisfied with mediocrity either. He's crushing it as well. So I'm still dubious about selling only to operators who want to defeat mediocrity, But if this resonates with you, I reckon you should check them out. Go to mxmetrics.com. But remember, only if you're interested in smashing mediocrity.
Quickfire 5.
Curious to hear what Dre Baldwin has to say on a life lesson that he learned from the pandemic? Stay tuned as we run through our Quickfire 5 questions. You'll also are going to hear why you need to mark your calendar for Dre's show, which is coming out the first week in January of 2022. The Quickfire 5 answers are brought to you by CEO of Work on Your Game, Dre Baldwin. Dre, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Dory.
Oh, absolutely. All right, we're going to get started. Your first question is, what is a life lesson you learned from the pandemic?
That a lot of people are very quick to let somebody tell them how to think and what to do. And that is the antithesis of what I'm about and the Work on Your Game philosophy is about.
Perfect. Good answer. I like how you incorporated your own mantra in there. That's awesome. And number 2, I can't wait to hear your answer on this one. If you could play a character in any movie, what character would it be?
I don't even watch a lot of movies, but one of my favorite is Ocean's 11, the modern version. So I would probably I'd be Brad Pitt. I'd be Rusty in Ocean's 11.
What guy doesn't want to be Brad Pitt, right?
I don't know if a lot of black guys want to be Brad Pitt, but I just like the character in the movie.
You can be anything you want to be, right? You can be anything you want to be. All right. Please complete this statement for me. Sunday morning, you can find me
taking a walk through downtown Miami, as I do every Sunday morning.
All right. Good place to take a walk. And Here we go. What is your number 1 book recommendation for our FBP family?
48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, my favorite book of all time. It is just a book that tells you everything about dealing with other people, some of the Machiavellian traits that other people will have, and the fact that not everybody has your best interest in mind. They have their best interest in mind. You have to learn how to navigate that world.
Okay, good choice. And finally, here is your chance to pitch to our FBP family why they should come back next week to hear your episode.
You should come listen to this episode because my background is as an athlete, but I was able to transition from the sports world over into the business world through my ability to extract the value of the tools that you need to succeed in sports and apply them to work in everyday life. So even if you're not an athlete and don't plan on becoming one, understand that many of the traits that you admire about athletes come from a series of principles that are transferable to all areas of life. I've learned how to extract those and articulate them, and that's what you're going to learn in this interview that me and Dory have next week.
All right, you heard it right from Dre, everybody. Tune in next week as Dre Baldwin comes back and he talks about getting yourself together so your business grows. Before we ring out 2021, I would like to say on behalf of everyone at the Fitness Business Podcast, we wish you a wonderful holiday season and a prosperous new year. We also want to thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing to strive for excellence and to be your go-to fitness educational podcast for 2022. Our lineup of guests for 2022 is shaping up to be one of the best. I am so excited. And also, to let you in on a little secret, this should be the year that we celebrate 1 million downloads. Now, to help us meet our mark of 1 million downloads here in 2022, make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. Subscribe at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Happy holidays! Thank you to our founding partner, Active Management, our partners, Keep Me, My Zone, Discover Strength, Tribe Team Training, One Fit Stop, and our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, MX Metrics, and Vapor Fresh. We believe what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but woven into the lives of others.